Hare Krishna. That was pretty nice, wasn't it? A little meditation, evening meditation. So now we're going to have a little discussion on the Ishopanishad. It's one of the Vedic literatures, ancient, thousands of years old. We're going to read from text 10. It's one of the short ones. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience or ignorance. Om Jnanatamvarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshrim Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This verse I just spoke, it's explained that we are all born in the darkness of ignorance. We're born ignorant, therefore we go to school and we learn. Now there's different things that we can learn. There's material knowledge and there's spiritual knowledge. Unfortunately, while we're growing up, we learn a lot of material knowledge in schools that don't give us much benefit. But then there's spiritual knowledge. Real knowledge is to know the difference between matter and spirit. We were all children in our little baby bodies, 1 year old, 6 months year old. Every 7 years, the body goes through a change. So the body that I have now, I'm 64, is different than the body that I had when I was 57. All the cells reproduce. So we've been through many bodies in this lifetime, just depending on how old you are. So the soul is just going through these bodies from boyhood to youth to old age. And when the body dies, we don't. It's nice to know. We don't die. Nainam chintanti sistrani nainam dehati pavaka. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the soul is so powerful that nothing can kill it. Even the most powerful nitrogen bomb can't kill the soul. So powerful. You can't burn it. With fire, practically you can burn anything, but not the soul. You can't drown it. Can't be withered by the wind. So the soul is very powerful. But having come in contact with this material nature, specifically the three modes of material nature, goodness, ignorance, passion, the greatness of the soul has been covered. So real knowledge is knowing how to become uncovered so that the real beauty of the soul comes out. The power of the soul comes out. And this mantra that we've been chanting here is considered to be the most conducive way to become uncovered in this age of Kali. Because Hare means the internal energy of God. Krishna means God, and Rama means the pleasure potency of God. So God is very pure. So when we come in contact with God, we become purified. And we can become so purified that we come to the complete realization that I'm not this body. I'm the soul. And I'm part of that supreme soul, God, Krishna. And the perfection of the human form of life is when we engage in loving service to Krishna. to God. This is the pleasure of the soul. So the soul is going to leave this body eventually. So one who is in knowledge prepares himself. Just like imagine you have an apartment and you've leased this apartment and you have to give up the apartment in a month. And for circumstances, you can't stay in that apartment. You have to leave. So an intelligent person will make arrangements to go to another apartment, right? When that month is up, he's going to make and if he doesn't make an arrangement, what's he going to do? He's going to be in the streets. There's a lot of people living on the streets now. So an intelligent person will make arrangements for when I leave this body, where am I going to go? And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that those in the mode of goodness, they go to the higher planetary systems. Those in the mode of passion, they stay in this middle planetary system. And those in the mode of ignorance, they go down to the lower planetary systems. But those who are pure, who engage in pure loving service to Krishna, they go back home. That's the perfection. That's the perfection. To go back to the spiritual world. That's our real home. This is not our real home. Yeah, because there's problems here. And one who has real knowledge will try to solve these problems. The main problems in this world is birth, death, old age, and disease. These are the problems. COVID-19 isn't the real problem. The real problem is birth, death, old age, and disease. It's called samsara, going through the cycle of birth and death. It's like we don't want to die. None of us want to die. Right? So why is it that we don't want to die? Because we don't. The soul doesn't die. So this is why we don't want to die. And therefore, people are making all kinds of arrangements to stay alive. And there's so many medicines, there's so many doctors. People want to live. It's natural. But the only way to stop death is we have to become pure. So we don't again enter into another material body. Nobody wants to get old. Now they have these, I don't know what they're called, but you take these shots and it takes away the wrinkles. What's it called? Anyway, you all know. I'm not familiar with these. I've heard. And people are putting so many things on their face and trying to look young. Everybody wants to look young. Nobody wants to get old. Just like there's this us men, we gradually we lose our hair. A lot of us, we lose our hair on the top. And sometimes men, they let it grow here, yeah? And then they flip it over, right? To cover up the bald spot, right? And then the wind comes and whoosh, and everybody says, bald. So men, they don't want to look bald. Of course, we don't mind. Us Hare Krishnas, we don't mind. It means we have to shave off less hair. We don't mind. Yeah, we don't want to get old. Disease. Nobody wants disease. So these are the main problems in the material world. And by practicing Krishna consciousness, by chanting this mantra, we can become so purified that we can go back to the spiritual world. This is the goal of the human form of life. So one result comes from knowledge, another result comes from nescience or ignorance. And we see throughout the world that there's a lot of nescient people, a lot of ignorant people, and they cause many problems throughout the world, yeah, because of this ignorance. So Krishna comes. He came 5,000 years ago, and he left us knowledge, Bhagavad Gita. Does anybody here not own a Bhagavad Gita? Please raise your hand. Okay, that's good. Everybody has a Bhagavad Gita. That's a good sign. Very good. So Krishna comes to give us this knowledge by which we can become free of ignorance and develop real knowledge. Yeah, there's pure knowledge. So Krishna gives us this pure knowledge by which we can get purified. He says, Avatam jnanam etena, jnanino nityavayana. The wise living entities, pure consciousness, have become covered. It's become covered. And this process of Krishna consciousness is meant to uncover us, to purify us. So this knowledge, this Bhagavad Gita, gives us so much information about the soul, about who we are, about karma. A lot of people think karma is just, good karma, bad karma. No, karma is actually much more intricate. There's three different types of karma. There's vikarma, there's akarma, and there's karma. Karma just means activity. Everybody is doing some type of activity. Vikarma means activity by which you get a negative reaction. Just like people are in prison now. There's some people in prison. They did something wrong. They got that reaction going to prison. And then there's akarma. Akarma means pure activity by which he doesn't get a reaction. He doesn't get a negative reaction, but he gets a positive reaction. And the most positive reaction that one can get is, as I mentioned earlier, is to be promoted back to the spiritual world. Yeah. So Krishna explains about karma, about time. We don't know much about time. We know it's there, but we don't know much about time. Think about it. What do we know about time? Very little. Can anybody say? What is time? Time is one of the energies of Krishna that destroys everything. Everything material, not the soul. Just like this building behind you, this temple. By the influence of time, eventually, it'll come down. Everything, even this planet, it's material. Eventually, it'll be finished. All these planets, because they're material, everything comes to an end. That's the influence of time. Representative of Krishna. So karma, time, nature. There's material nature and there's spiritual nature. So everything that we see here, this is material nature, material things. And then there's the spiritual things, the soul, Krishna. Now some people say, well, I don't believe there's a soul because they've never seen a soul. They have faith in empiric knowledge. Right? If I don't see it, I don't believe it exists. But has anybody here ever seen a thought? No one has ever seen a thought. Do they exist? I hope so. They do exist, but we can't see them. Nobody can see time. The power of time. So many things we can't see, but we know exists. We all have intelligence. Nobody can see intelligence. You can see the brain. The brain is a muscle. But you can't see intelligence. People say, well, I don't believe in God. You can't see God. But that doesn't mean he doesn't exist. See, God is subtle. The soul is subtle. Time is subtle. Thoughts are subtle. Intelligence is subtle. You can't see these things because they're subtle. With our gross eyes, we can't see these subtle things. But people have so much faith in these eyes. We shouldn't have so much faith in our material eyes. But Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives us jnana chakshu. We could see the eyes of knowledge. Just by knowledge, one can see, wherever there's life, wherever there's consciousness, there's a soul. In the bird, in the plant, in the ant. Wherever you see life, there's a soul behind that life. And therefore we, as devotees of Krishna, we respect all life. If we're walking down the sidewalk and we see an ant on the sidewalk, we avoid walking on the ant. We don't kill any living entity unless attacked. Like sometimes you might get attacked by a mosquito. So then that's all right. You've been attacked, right? Or someone might attack you, or you might be walking down the street with your grandmother and some robber comes and attacks your grandmother. We're not fanatical, non-violent. We will stop that person with violence. Sometimes there's people that are fanatical against violence, and they won't do any violence for any reason. But that's not practical. Sometimes it's necessary. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken just before a battle. It was good against evil. And it had to take place to stop the evil. Just like we had many decades ago, we had Hitler, who basically wanted to take over the planet. Yeah. And if he hadn't been stopped with violence, we would all be speaking German now, right? So fortunately, he was stopped. So sometimes violence is necessary due to our being in this material world. But we try to avoid. And therefore, we're also vegetarian. And I'll tell you, a lot more people would be vegetarian if these slaughterhouses were in public areas with windows so that people can see what's happening in the slaughterhouse. There'd be a lot more vegetarians. They go to the store and they see the meat, nicely wrapped in the little packages. And they don't know where that came from. Of course, many of them do, but if they actually saw it, they'd have a change of consciousness. So time, nature, karma, the soul. The Bhagavad Gita gives a lot of information about the soul, which I never found anywhere else. You don't get much opportunity to hear about the soul. It's described that Vasangsi Janani Yathavihaya, that the body, it's like a garment. Just like we're all wearing garments now. And eventually these garments are going to get old. Yeah? And we're going to get new garments. So similarly, this body, it's a garment. It's going to get old and we're going to discard it. But we're going to continue according to our karma. So, yeah, it's just a vessel for the soul. But we have to take care of it. I gave you the example of the person that's in the apartment and he has to leave. So this body, it's an apartment. And Krishna, He's the landlord. He owns the body. We're just using this body for a short time, maybe 60, 70, 80 years, but we're just borrowing it. And therefore we have to take care of it. It's not ours. We have to take care of it. Yeah. Therefore, many of us, we do yoga and do exercises. But what is most important is that we have to utilize this body in a way that we can advance in spiritual life. By hearing Bhagavad Gita, by chanting this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The mind, the soul, the intelligence, everything gets purified by this, it's called the Bhakti Yoga Marg, or the Bhakti Yoga path. Bhakti means devotion, love. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants love. But a lot of people don't know what this love is. Love means an unmotivated, uninterrupted desire to serve the beloved, the person whom you have affection for. No selfish desire. See, the nature of this world is that we're very selfish. You might have a relationship and your partner might do something that displeases you, and that disturbs you, that upsets you, and you leave. But with Krishna, whatever a devotee of Krishna feels, that whatever Krishna does, I don't mind. I don't mind. I'll still love him. I still love Krishna, no matter what he does. This is love. The latest incarnation of Krishna, he says, I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord. So this is real love. But you can only have real love with someone who is completely pure. And Krishna is completely pure. This is why there's so much friction between relationships, because people are impure. There's false ego, there's lust, there's greed, there's envy, there's so much impurity. So therefore, to have a loving relationship between two conditioned souls, very difficult. And therefore, there's so much divorce. Like half the marriages end in divorce eventually. So why is that? Why is that? Because of the impurities. Yeah. But Krishna is the most pure, so you can have faith that whatever Krishna does is good for me. So therefore we have faith. Yeah. And we don't give up our relationship with God. Because Father knows best. Some of you older people might remember there was a show called Father Knows Best. So yes, the Supreme Father, Krishna, he knows best. So whatever is happening in our life, it's good for us. We just have to try to see that. It'll help us grow. If we just accept that whatever Krishna arranges is good for me, then we can grow spiritually. And in this world, we face difficulties. It's just the nature of this world. We face difficulties. And difficulties are good. We get purified by difficulties. Even there's one great devotee, one of the most exalted devotees, servants of Krishna that ever lived. She prayed, Krishna, please give me difficulty. Because when difficulties come, then I remember you. Just like many of you may know, there's a saying called, there's no atheist in a foxhole. Because if someone's in war and you're in this foxhole, this ditch, and the bullets are flying over your head, People pray to God. People give up whatever atheism might have been there. It's gone. People pray to God. I had one friend who went to Vietnam back in the 70s, and he was there fighting, and he saw so many of his friends getting shot. It was this shocking experience. So he started praying to God very intensely. God, please, please save me. Please protect me. Shouting loud. And he was one of the 8 out of like 160 people that survived that. And when he got back to America, he met the Hare Krishnas and became a devotee. So Krishna heard him. He heard his cry. So difficulty is good. It's called the fire of ordeal. Some difficulty comes, then we get purified. Like that? Excuse me? Thank you. So, yeah, sometimes there might be a difficulty and we're thinking, oh, why is God doing this to me? Why is he doing this to me? And we lament and we get depressed. But no, he's trying to purify us. Believe it or not. And he's very good. He knows what he's doing. You know, he's arranging everything. He's controlling everything. He knows what he's doing. He's in our heart also. So he knows how to purify us. He knows what is best for us. Okay? So, with that, is there any question? Yes, Dimitri. Oh, we have a microphone coming so that everybody can hear. Oh, yeah.
So, my question would be, how would you deal with anger in a relationship? Because it always arises and you always have to transform it somehow.
Yeah, anger. Yeah, this is one of the vices or difficulties that we experience. Like you might have a relationship, like you mentioned, and someone might just leave. You know, your partner might just leave, just say, well, it's not working out, and you become angry. But you should see that also as the arrangement of Krishna. That relationship just wasn't working. Maybe if you would have, I know your situation a little bit, you didn't marry her, but imagine if you would have married her and then she decided, well, you know, it's not working out, you know, and by the way, you also had kids, you know, then it becomes a real mess, you know, so many families break up with kids and it's just, so it could be a blessing in disguise that you didn't get too much involved and she left and, now you go on with your life. You know, you're part of Krishna. You're a spirit soul. You're part of the Supreme Soul. So that relationship is still there. We've had so many relationships. All of us have had so many husbands and so many wives and so many children, but they're all temporary, right? They're all temporary. So just see it as that. It's everything that we're experiencing here, all the relationships that we have here, they're all temporary. So sooner or later, all the relationships are going to stop anyway. But the relationship that we have with Krishna won't stop. Nothing can stop that relationship. And we should try to grow in that. So you could think of it like this also, that your partner left, so now you're showing more interest in Krishna, right? So it's a blessing in disguise. Difficulties, many times difficulties are blessings in disguise. We don't see it, but then eventually you see, oh, actually it was good. I'll tell you a little incident in this regard. There was one king who had a secretary who was very Krishna conscious. And whatever would happen, he would say, oh, Krishna's mercy. very Krishna conscious, very God conscious. Whatever would happen, Krishna's mercy. So one time the king, he was sharpening his arrow. He used to go hunting, so he was sharpening his arrow, and he cut off his thumb, and he was depressed. Oh, I just lost my thumb. Terrible. But when the secretary found out, he said, Krishna's mercy. King didn't like that. He said, Krishna's mercy, huh? All right, he told his guards, put him in jail and see if that's Krishna's mercy. So what did the secretary say? Krishna's mercy. So the king thought, man, this guy's a little wacko. Yeah? So then the king, he decided that, some weeks later, he wanted to go hunting. But generally he would just go with the secretary. He was his hunting partner. But he thought, anyway, I'll just go by myself. So he went out and he's hunting. He's hunting, looking for game to shoot. And while he's out there, he gets caught by these persons called dacoits. In India, they do, there's, believe it or not, back in the past, I don't think that's still happening, but there were these people called dacoits. And they would capture people and do a human offering to goddess Durga, believe it or not. So they caught this king and they thought, this is great. We caught a king. Goddess Durga is going to be so happy with us. We're going to get so much in return. See, by doing these human sacrifices, they would get so much material opulence in return from Goddess Durga. So they took this king to their Durga temple, and they had him all tied up, and they're just getting ready to make a human offering to Goddess Durga. And one of them noticed, no thumb, imperfect body. We can't offer him. Untie him, cut all the ropes off. Come on, get him out of here. Yeah, he's imperfect. Yeah, they're very upset. So they kicked him out. He went running through the forest. And he's shouting, it was Krishna's mercy. It was Krishna's mercy. He's shouting through it was Krishna's mercy. He's so happy that he lost his thumb. So he finally gets to his kingdom, and he goes straight to his secretary and said, you were right. It was Krishna's mercy. I can't believe it. I was going to be offered to Goddess Durga. They were going to make a human offering to me. But because I didn't have a thumb, they let me go. You're right. Thank you. And the secretary said, you see, I told you, everything that happens is Krishna's mercy. You have to see like that, king. And then he let the secretary out, and he embraced him, he was so happy. But then he asked the secretary, but you went to jail. You were in jail for so many weeks. Terrible. How was that Krishna's mercy? And the secretary said, I didn't have any missing thumbs. I would have been the offering. You see? Sometimes it's hard to see Krishna's mercy all the time. But whatever happens, it's Krishna's mercy. Okay? Anything else? Yes, back there I think I see a hand. Way back in the back.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Nice talk.
Thank you.
At the beginning of the talk, you began with kind of putting the fact out that we have a soul. It's subtle, and there's more to kind of this material world that we're living in. And this material world that we're living in has these faulties that kind of amplify the imperfectness of it. But given that we're in this situation and in this material body, how can we implement kind of day-to-day practices or mindsets to have this equipoise of not being so so attached or so kind of aroused by what's going on around us, and having kind of and building these qualities of really kind of wanting to improve and level ourselves up as individuals?
Very good question. Thank you. Yes, we're in the world. You got to work, and you're dealing with people that aren't Krishna conscious, and you got to. So it can be difficult. Therefore, we have this mantra that was up there. What we do to prepare our day, every day, is we chant this mantra, this Hare Krishna mantra, 16 rounds a day. We have these beads, and it takes about 2 hours. So that's a very good way to prepare your day for the world. And we also read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We have so many books that we read daily that help us deal with this world, that help us get purified so that we can deal with the things of this world. So Krishna comes to help us to be prepared for this material world and get purified. If we're under the modes of material nature, passion and ignorance, then it's difficult to deal with the reversals of this world. Of course, in the mode of goodness, it's a little easier. But this process is meant to give us to pure goodness, where we could not only deal with it, but deal with it in a very Krishna conscious, spiritual way. Yeah, it's called sadhana bhakti, hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna. This purifies us and prepares us for any difficulty that we may experience. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Machchita sarva durgani. He says, if you become conscious of me, you'll cross over all the obstacles on your path to pure devotional service. If, however, you act out of false ego and you don't hear me, then you'll be lost. So Krishna's given us knowledge by which we can deal with any difficulty, any reversal in this world. Okay? I know it's people that are working, it's not easy, you meditate for 2 hours or, because you got to get to work at 9 and you get back at, 6 or 5 and you don't have much time. But many devotees that are working, they'll chant maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 rounds, at least something. And we have beads. I think we have beads here also, right? We have beads. Yeah, we have beads. If anybody's interested, we have beads in our store. We have Bhagavad Gitas. We have so many things that can help you in your journey. Okay? Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We have an announcement from our sponsor.
So, thank you everyone for attending tonight. It's kind of anyways, a little hard to heat this room. Sorry about that if anyone was cold. We'll be here next week. Feel free to join us. And we have this display here, these stars. You might be wondering why we have stars up there, but so we're doing kind of a test run. But next week, and for probably quite a few weeks, myself and Vijaya here and Mukunda, we'll be speaking on that's a book called The Light of the Bhagavat, and it's a very beautiful book. And the whole book, it's dealing with like nature, and specifically, say what we can learn from nature in many ways. In the book, it's not only like a book of wisdom quotes, you could say, but it's also illustrated. So it has all these. So in other words, the stars here, there's some wisdom quote that explains what we could learn from the stars, something like that. So we'll be going through a series of those, and I'll be starting it next week. So yeah, please join if you can. And then so also tonight we'll be having some boxes of dinner to go. It should be coming out any minute now. So did somebody say something?
You might want to announce the 28th is.
Yeah, we're not doing much here, but just like a walkthrough. It is a special festival, the 28th of this month. Under normal circumstances, we'd have a really jam-packed temple room, lots of people and big festival. But due to the circumstances, there might be a good group of people, but it'll be low-key, a bit more or less like a walkthrough of the temple, and be serving dinner, things like that. So that's on the 28th of this month. Okay, so thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So the dinner should be coming, right? Is it coming? Okay, so if you just wait a few moments and pass out the dinner. Yeah, you can play that.